It is the 7th of June. This is Rabbi Fabian, substituting for Rabbi Levitt, Gemora.
Hello.
Hey, Roy.
Okay. Shalom, Roy. See, you have the play.
Good morning. I'm ready.
Morning, Alan.
Good
Alan,
morning.
you have the place in the Gemora? Good morning.
6A1.
Just to let everybody know, I'm going to be saying. So we're holding by test 109. We're holding by 108. I'm not sure in terms of the art scroll exactly which turn of the page it is, so that you have to tell someone who has to say.
109A3.
Okay. Just to interrogate that.
No.
Mishtacha al Kivrei Avos, but it doesn't talk about praying. That's a different subject. We'll deal with it another time.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Rabbi.
I just said if you look at Pasuk Kaf Beis in Chumash there on Parashat Shalach on Pasuk 22, it talks about them stopping by Hebron. So
What chapter?
Chapter in the beginning of Shalach, the first wherever Shalach starts, it's in Yud Gimel, chapter 13, Pasuk 22, and the Rashi over there. Let's go back to our subject of the Gemara. I don't want to sidetrack. You can talk to me on the telephone, Lou.
Yeah.
Alan, you with us?
Yeah, kind of. We were just talking about what a previous shiur. Don't worry about that, B'Shalach.
Okay, fine. Now we're in the Gemara here. When the place of the Gemara we're in is the words Maski La Rav Sheshis. Alan, let's see. Maybe Roy. Roy, do you want to start the Gemara here with Masik La Rav Sheshis?
Maskif La Rav Sheshis. Rav Sheshis objected to this. That was to do with converting the robbery into a loan,
Right.
and thereby getting out of it. If this is so, and what do you call it? The art scrolls puts in. If it's so that Reb Yosef maintains his opinion even when the robbery debt has not been converted into a loan, and he holds that the robber is able to forgive himself this debt, the Rabbi Yosef Hagalili Lashma Einain Nafshi. Then when teaching the law that applies according to Rev Yosef Hagalili, let the Mishnah inform us that one can forgive himself the robbery debt, the whole shechain la'arim, and we would be able to deduce that one can certainly forgive it for another. All right. The Rabbi Akiva Lashme'ein La'acharim Dilo Matzei Machil And when teaching the law that applies according to Rav Akiva, let the Mishnah inform us that one cannot forgive the robbery debt for another. V'chol shechein lenifta
Menashe.
lenafshia delo matsu machil. And even if we would be able to deduce that one can certainly not forgive it for himself, and we would be able to, all right. So again, that one cannot forgive according to Reb Akiva, let the mission inform us that one cannot forgive the robbery for another, and certainly can't do it for yourself.
Okay, so let's discuss the point here and let's try to understand what the Gemara is doing at this point. Well, who is the Harim here? What was the, in other words, forgiving himself? Do we understand what it means by forgiving himself? What is the Gemara referring to? What's it referring to when it talks about forgiving another person? Who's the other person in this case?
Well, his deceased father. Is that right?
Well, so what
or
we're talking
in general.
and
Or
we're
in,
talking specifically in this case. In other words, what happened was he met up with the ger, and we said that the ger said, it's all right, you can take it as a loan.
oh, I'm sorry.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
But the ger said you could take it as a loan, and we were zakfa to a milva, zakfa to milva. Rabbi Akiva didn't agree with that. He said it didn't work. So, in other words, the ger was not able, according to Rabbi Yossi, really, not only did the ger didn't need to forgive him for the theft and turn it into a loan. He didn't when he received it, when he was acquired the money, because the ger died, or in the case of a father, the father would die, for example. Then he'd be able to acquire it himself. He'd be able to essentially forgive himself, right? Rabbi Akiva holds that both cases don't work. In other words, Rabbi Yossi is lenient on both sides, and Rabbi Akiva is strict in both opinions. Lou?
Yeah.
There's a Rashi here, which is not exactly on our location, but it's talking about everything we're talking about. It's the Rashi on the beginning of the wide lines. Maybe you want to read the Rashi. Everyone have the place. It's the Rashi in the beginning of the wide lines toward just past where the Gemora finishes. Ihachi.
Ihachi. Everybody there?
Yeah.
Below Zakfu Nami Ka'amar Rabbi Yossi Le Nafshe Matzi Mechil Masnisen de Mechil Lo al Hakaran de Amras Rabbi Yossi he Kavan de Amar Lenafshe. This is getting pretty long. Let's translate a little bit.
Right.
De below that without. I don't know what Zakfu is.
We said Zakfu is essentially means to it means to straighten out the situation, to make the loan. In other words, this was the case where the ger turned the debt. He forgave the debt, and he said, "Oh, we'll call it a loan." That was what we called zakfu. So in Hebrew, the lashon zokef kafufim means to straighten the bent. we're straightening out the situation. I
Okay,
don't know
so
how to
without
better.
fixing up the situation, Nami also, as to say, Rabbi Yossi himself finds what's mechil?
To forgive. In other words, he's trying to say that Lanafshe, the person in the story here, in other words, we said Rabbi Yossi says Lanafshe, meaning not Rabbi Lanafshe is not Rabbi Yossi, Lanafshe, the one who is the thief, to himself also could forgive himself. The thief, who's now became the inheritor, right? The son who inherited his father, he's now the owner of the money that he stole. He could forgive himself, according to Rabbi Yossi. He can say, okay, Moichelech, to himself, because he owns the money that was stolen that he's now in his possession.
Demochel lo, to forgive him. Al Hakeren, to forgive him for the principle.
Right.
The Amras that Rabbi Yossi said, Kavan, since the Amar that he said, Lenafshe himself, Matzi, we find Machil, we find that he forgives.
He's capable of forgiving himself.
What is this abbreviation? L'shamai?
L'shma'inan, we hear from this.
L'shma'inan, hear from this.
It's implying an implication that if he can forgive himself, he can certainly, we're going to say, can forgive another person. Read it inside.
Bioresh es Aviv, the one who inherits his father, Demachil, that he forgives, the nafshe, he forgives himself. Velishni Pater, and it teaches that he's exempt. Ulakama to Rebbe Yosef, to Kol Shekain, that even more so, the Negazal Gufa Legazlan Matzi Mechil, that the thief himself.
The one who's the nigzal, the one who's stolen from. In other words, in a normal theft, there's a thief and the one who's stolen from.
The victim.
The victim.
The victim. There's the victim and there's the thief and the victim. So in the Lashon in Hebrew, there's the nigzal and the gazlan. The nigzal is the one who's the victim, right? So all the more so, the victim himself can forgive the thief. If the thief can forgive himself, certainly the victim can forgive the thief, a second party. Continue inside.
Okay. So we find Machil, that he forgives the Gabe Machil, and according to the one who forgives him, Al Akeren, the principle, de Okme. What's the Okme?
To establish.
Like Rabbi Yossi, Lishne, to teach, Eina Mechila, there is no forgiveness. Velokme, and it establishes Karebi Akiva, like Rebbe Akiva. Delish Ma'inan Masnisen, that it's derived from our Mishnah.
What we're trying to say here is that according to the Mishnah, it doesn't seem to be going like Rabbi Yossi, because we find in the Mishnah that although there was a concept of being moichel on the Karen, there was still we seem to be seeing the Mishnah more. I forget exactly. I remember I have to look back at the Mishnah again. Yeah, go ahead, Roy.
Favors.
Or the Mishnah favors.
Yossi.
The Mishnah favors Rabbi Yossi. Okay. Yeah. The question is, what did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah said, guys, if they steal from the father and he takes a shvuya, the father died, harizeh, the person pays Karen v'choymesh v'asham b'banav, to the sons, or la'achiv, or to his siblings. Im eino roitze or she'eino lo, there are no other siblings. Lo yiveh u'balei choy b'ayim v'niflaim. So the question is, what did he do? Okay, let's continue.
Okay.
The question.
The la'achrim lo matzi machil, that others we do not find forgiveness. Umay stam she ma'anin shapir dechol shekain. That what is this? Shemainin?
It's the implication, what we hear. It's a word Shema, Lashon Shema Yisrael, right? Shema means hearing. So it means it's referring to the implication. Lo matzi machal v'hasam shmein and shapir. What it means to say is, lo matzi machal, he's not found to be able to forgive. From there, we hear good. Shapir is like you hear. Shaminan is you hear, or the implication is good or clear or whatever. Not clear is the word change. Shapir is good, lesson of good.
Right. The kol shekain, that in any case, the nafshe dizakfu, that he himself fixes up or straightens out b'malveh with the
right.
Hayinu acherim. There are others uke amar that say Rabbi Akiva delo matzi machil, that we do not find that he can forgive. Aval hashta, now de ashmoinan, that there is the implication le acherim, for others, have mechila, that he can forgive. Ulenafsha, and for himself, lo have mechila, he cannot forgive. Ika lememar, there is to say, didafka, that specifically katani, we learned vichad Tana, that one Tana, who Resha is the Resha, Tamas Nisan of our Mishnah, the Seifa and the second half.
Right. So they're trying to put together the ideas in the Mishnah, how it works together with our Tanoim here. This a little bit explains what's going on here with our opinion between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Akiva, and with the ideas of the Mishnah, which you learned with Rabbi Levitt. Okay, so why don't we, Alan, do you want to continue the Gemara?
Okay, which page we on now? Which side?
It should
one,
say Ella Amar Reb Sheshes.
We're on 109A3, right-hand column, the
Right.
second paragraph. Rosheshes,
Rav Sheshes.
therefore.
Yeah, Rav Sheshes therefore offers another explanation of the dispute and the seemingly contradictory Mishnayos. Ella Omar Rav Sheshes, rather Rav Sheshes said, or Behes, Rabbi Yosei Hagalila, both this Mishnah and that Mishnah reflect the opinion of Rabbi Yosei Hagalili. He Komar Rabbi Yosef Hagalili de Marseille Mochil. For when did Rabbi Yosef Hagalili say that one can forgive the obligation to return the robbed property? Harim, it is specifically regarding a case where one forgives it for another, i.e., the victim forgives the robber. Lo mortsei morchil, but one cannot forgive himself this obligation. Ela omai zachor halor b'ma shebardo. Rather, why does Rabbi Yossi Haglili rule in the Raisa cited above that when a convert who was robbed dies, the other one, the robber, acquires that which is in his possession? Mishum de Korfin or is because the victim converted the robbery debt to a loan upon the robbery.
Right. So, and because he converted it to a loan, then when the heir died, so the thief who now became a lender or a borrower, became a borrower, acquired it because the owner passed away and there was no descendants to inherit. So, Lou, there's a Rashi here on this exact piece. Ha v'ha Rabbi Yossi. It's the next. Right, everyone sees the Rashi there. It's the next Rashi after the one we just finished. It's in the middle of the wide lines toward the bottom of the page.
This and this are Reb Yossi. Ha de Amar Bizakfu B'malveh the Kevan de Afka Ger Gufe de Have Nigzal mi Toras Gazela. So this that it says, Zakfu, that he can fix up the loan. The Malva, is that the lender, or is that the loan?
In other words, the ger is fixing up the situation with the thief. The Amr Bizakfu, by virtue of the ger turning it into a loan, which we call zakfu, Bizakfu b'malva, the kaven the afke ger gufe, since the ger took it out himself, the havi, right? The ger did it himself. You want to continue? And that's the lashon there of zakfu and zakfu b'milva. The ger was zakfu b'milva.
He took out the loan.
Meaning he made it in from the thievery. He took it from being stolen money in the possession of the thief to a loan in the possession of what used to be a thief.
Right. The Hava Nigzal Mitoras Gazela, that the victim was under the law of theft.
Right.
The Have Mochel, that it was as if it was forgiven la'achrim, to another. It was as if he gave another.
Right.
Hayu machila. This is forgiveness. Ulechi mayach.
Mice. He died.
Oh, mice. And when he died, Kania, he acquired Hayu Hilchach Machal Lo. It was therefore forgiven him. Al Hakaren, on the principle. The Masnis,
Right.
that it says in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi, it is Rabbi Yossi, the Rabbi Akiva, that if it was Rabbi Akiva, Boye Hasheva, it would need, what is Hasheva?
Return. You have to return the money.
It would need to return Mishalo, that which he had. Kitani, as we learned, Ain Lo Tikana. There is not for him a fixing. Ad Shiyotze Gazela, until he takes out the theft. He can't
Right,
be,
you have to get this. Go ahead.
can't be forgiven until he rectifies the situation with the theft. He's got to get rid of the money. He's got to give the money
He has to get it out of his possession. That's the point.
out of his possession. He can't just say, I'm converting it to a loan. He's got to get it out of his possession. The Seifa Nami Rabbi Yosef, and the Seifa is also Rabbi Yosef. It is de Mode Rabbi Yosef, that Rabbi Yosef forgives. The Nafshe, he forgives himself. According to Rabbi Yosef, he forgives himself. Delo matzi mechil, that we don't find that he forgives. Kevan delo ipka nigzal mi Toras Gezela. Since that he does not fix up for the victim under the law of theft.
Right, I'm not sure the last point in Rashi what he was trying to say. 1 second.
Yeah, I didn't follow that.
What did he say? He said he
Say,
fixes up
but
for
he's talking about
himself.
the end of the Mishnah. Nami Rabbi. Rashi wants to say the whole Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi. Can't be Rabbi Akiva. He's making based upon the opinions of Rabbi Akiva and what's the Mishnah states. He wants to say the Mishnah in the Reisha and the Seifa are both Rabbi Yossi. The point of the Seifa, though, what he's trying to say in the Rashi is Nami Rabbi Yossi. It's also Rabbi Yossi. The Moide Rabbi Yossi, L'navshe, the Lo Matzi Machel. That to forgive, he wants to say, not like we said earlier. Earlier we said Rabbi Yossi held that he could forgive, the thief could forgive himself. But Rabbi Sheshis holds Rabbi Yossi. There's a difference of opinion in how we're learning Rabbi Yossi. According to this Rashi, the pshat in Rabbi Sheshis is that Rabbi Yossi is also the one who wrote the Seif of the Mishnah, and the thief cannot forgive himself, right? That's what he's saying here. In other words, he could another person could forgive a second party, like the ger turning it into a loan. That would work, but to receive the money and forgive himself, according to the Seif of the Mishnah, which we're now attributing, according to Rishesis, to Reb Yossi, he could not forgive himself. So he wants to say that the Mishnah is exclusively Rabbi Yossi, and it's not at all Rabbi Akiva, but Rabbi Yossi's opinion is that you can forgive somebody, a second party can be forgiven, the ger can turn it into a loan, but the person, if he inherited from his father who passed away, it would not be acceptable for him to forgive himself. That wouldn't work. That's what Rashi is saying. And that should be the opinion of Reb Shesh's opinion of Reb Yossi, not like the earlier opinion that we learned of Reb Yossi, which held that Rabbi Yossi held that he could, in fact, forgive himself. We have two different opinions of Rabbi Yossi. In the earlier one, Rabbi Yossi said the thief could forgive himself, and therefore the Seif of the Mishnah couldn't be Rabbi Yossi, so we wanted to try to attribute it to Rabbi Akiva. In the later opinion of Reb Sheshis, he's forgiving the Ganav cannot forgive himself, and he's attributing the whole Mishnah to Rabbi Yossi. Okay, are we holding here? We're about to move forward with Roy reading further in the Gemara.
All right. Oops. All right. Robert?
Let me just interject. We have 7 minutes. So I presume that what we'll do is we'll just go until we get cut off, and then that'll be it for today. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. So what we're going to do is that's correct. We're going to go until we get cut off. And also, just to be aware, I should be sending out an email to the whole group that tomorrow we'll be going, instead of on Zoom, on Team, like Rabbi Moore does, because that has an hour session. My son set it up for me here, so hopefully I'll be successful at sending everyone out an email, and we'll be able to have an hour session instead of a 40-minute. So that'll be good for the first year, and the second year it'll help us out a little bit too. So we won't get cut off. So we'll try, and then I'll be able to administer the share next week if I were successful at getting that off the ground, hopefully tomorrow. So everyone should receive an email at some point. It should be tonight, though, not early, because I need my son's help to do it.
Okay. And before we get cut off, thank you.
Okay, my pleasure. Okay, Roy, why don't you continue, and you'll continue until we get cut off.
All right. So Rava said, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Rava Omar, Ha Vaha Rabbi Akiva. Both this Mishnah and that Mishnah reflect the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. He Omar Rabbi Akiva, Delo Matzi Machil. But when did Rabbi Akiva say that one cannot forgive the obligation to return robbed property? The Nifshia, it is specifically regarding the case that one forgives himself. Aval laharim metzi machil, but one is able to forgive this obligation for another. All right, going on to now to 109b.
Oh, it's our
Why
custom
don't we-
that when we finish a page, we say, hooray!
Right, before we
All right,
finish,
hooray. Okay.
hooray, they certainly say hooray,
All
but
right.
there's a Rashi here that goes on this piece of Gemara. I don't know if you want to try to do it, Lou, before we turn the page. The
Okay.
last Rashi on the page is going on that little piece of Gemara, at least until we get cut off.
Okay, Rabbi Amar, Rava Amar, Havaha, Rabbi Akiva, de Rabbi Yossi, le Nafshe, Nami, Matzi, Machio, de Zakfu. So Rava Amar, Rava says, this and this are Rabbi Akiva, referring to this Reish in the Seifa. That according to Rabbi Yossi, himself also, we find that he can forgive and fix it up. I'm sorry, lav dafka, but was not specifically v'chi amar Rabbi Akiva. For when Rabbi Akiva says delo matzi machil lenafshe, that we don't find that he can forgive himself. Hava de amar. It is that it says to Afal Gav that even though the ger, that the convert Zakfu fixed up Kavan, since Delo Machil Machila Gemura Lo Nafka Le, that since he didn't forgive a forgiveness, a complete forgiveness, he does not what's nafkale?
Go out.
He did not go out may chorach
Taurus.
Torah Skizela. He did not go out from the law of theft. Aval nigzal, but the victim ligzal legazlan moda Rabbi Akiva de machil. But regarding the thief, Rabbi Akiva admits that he can forgive.
Right. So as with the last minutes or seconds, I don't know. Just to summarize here, we have Rava in the end of the Gemara here, who's saying that the whole mission is Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva did not hold. Rabbi Akiva held that you could be moichel another person. So there's a clear machlekes in who is the Mishnah. We had three different opinions, if I'm not mistaken, who the Mishnah is going like, and we had the last one was Rava's opinion that the Mishnah is going completely like Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Sheshes' opinion is the Mishnah is completely going like Rabbi Yossi Haglili, and the original opinion was that the Mishnah was split, and part of the Mishnah was going like Rabbi Yossi Haglili, and the second part was going, I think the Reish and the Sefer, the Mishnah was half going like Rabbi Yossi and half going like Rebbe Akiva. So that's where we're at before we turn the page. And
Good call.
see,